Hey, by the way, speaking of things that I know you're going to like,
Yeah.
we've got a little video I want to play for you. I know you don't want
Oh
to do Tony
no.
Reed's rap anymore,
Oh
but
no. No,
no, it's
no.
not a rap song. Hang on.
That's probably something worse.
It's funk.
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 It's
Not Terry,
funk.
not Terry Funk.
Like
Even
Grand
better.
Funk, like Grand Funk Railroad.
Even better. It's the
I'm in
stylistic.
love with a girl. Oh, the stylistics.
You love that, don't you?
Love the stylistics.
Now, someone has found a way to have the stylistics through the
Uh-huh.
miracle and magic that is AI do a Gorilla Zoe song that I
What?
know you're gonna love.
Who's
Let's take
Gorilla?
this. You're gonna love it, Tony. It's the stylistics. Just lay back and relax and let these tunes take care of the rest of the night.
I
Here we go.
I absolutely apologize for this.
Dude, tell me you don't like the stylistics right there.
The stylistics are the yeah. How about AI, brother? Huh?
Dude, that was amazing.
That was
Shout out
amazing.
to Funk It Up 256 on Instagram. They're also on YouTube.
Wow.
256 is the area code for Huntsville or North Alabama. So I wonder
Yeah.
if they're local or whatever. But man, I fell in love with that YouTube channel last week.
Right.
And I have blown up everybody I know with it because there's so many classics on there. And if you're a rap fan like me, but you also love the old soul stuff like that, meshing it together, I didn't expect it to work so well. But when I saw it, I was like, Tony Schiavone, who hates rap, he will love this.
Yeah, I did.
That was
Yeah,
fun.
I really enjoyed it. I love the stylistics. I loved Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. I love the Spinners, Four Tops. I know I'm going to miss some of them. I know I'm going to miss a couple of them. But they were just all great. Uh, just great stuff. Demoy said, "Very yacht rock." Are you into yacht rock?
The first person I ever knew who really talked about yacht rock and made that a thing in my life was Cassio Kid.
Yeah.
And I didn't even really know what that was. I saw that yacht rock documentary that came
Did you
out a
watch
couple
it?
months ago. Yeah.
You watch it? Yeah, I watched it
I,
too.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I didn't
Yeah.
really know that was a genre, and I get that people think it's a negative thing. I don't really think it is, but
No, I
I
don't
do
either.
think when you're in the right mood, man, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And all that Funk It Up 256 stuff, shout out to those guys. They're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Uh, and I got to tell you, I know that I've heard some of their songs, but I don't know that I've gone out of my way to like download stylistic albums, but I
Right.
have since. And so
Right.
now this AI introduced me to, oh shit, I really like that. Let me go find some more. That was cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of cool, this is my childhood right here, man. Hulk Hogan coming out to make the save for Sting. I'll admit I was not watching wrestling in 1994, but when I was watching wrestling, and we'll call it 1990, there was nobody cooler on these two shows, these two wrestling shows I watched, the WWF and WCW, than Hulk Hogan and Sting. So to see Sting as the franchise of WCW down there getting saved by Hulk Hogan, man, that was something that we couldn't have imagined not that long before. But I do want to ask you about just the structuring of that, Tony, because that match ends in a DQ,
Okay.
15 minutes and 26 seconds.
Oof.
Sting
Wow.
gets the win by DQ. Hulk Hogan makes the save. He comes out, tears the shirt off, and does the whole deal.
Yep.
But now he's going to come back out in the main event in the very next match.
Right.
I don't like you've told us before back in the day when you were in the WWF, they'd have these marathon tapings. They'd go forever, all these syndicated shows, but they'd always be sure to remind you, stay tuned, fans. Coming up in a little while, our main event, Hulk Hogan. And so he was last, and I get that. And I understand what we're trying to do here, give the rub to Sting, and
Right.
Hogan
That's it.
and Sting aren't competing.
That's
But
it.
the structure of them being like, you've got 2 Hogan entrances now, almost back to back, it feels weird. Should they
Yeah.
have made the Sting Avalanche match earlier or save that for a television angle? It just feels weird to me here.
Well, I think that in reality, and of course, it's easy to try to book it now, right? All these
Yeah.
years later, 30
Yes,
years later.
yes.
In reality, not saying it should have been Avalanche in there with him, but Sting should have been in the main event and Hogan come out to help him there. And
Right.
that should have been the way it was done, by the way.
We got a few questions on Twitter. Gennaro Gonzalez says, was the Butcher the worst person in a Starrcade main event ever?
That's
What do you think?
wow. I'd have to go. I'd have to look. We'd have to list up the Starrcade main events for me to be able to say
All
that.
right. Well, listen, we know what Flair for the Gold was. It was
Right.
Harley Race and Ric Flair.
Right.
Yeah, are either of them worse than the Butcher?
No.
All right. So the next year it was Flair and Dusty. We got that twice. Are either one of them worse than the Butcher?
That was $1 million challenge, right? With Joe Frazier, the referee.
And then the Gathering right after.
Right. And that was Dusty in the cage, right? And
It was Flair and Dusty. Yeah.
again, okay.
And then we had Flair and Nikita in
Uh-huh.
'86. Is Nikita worse than the Butcher?
No.
Ron Garvin was there in '87.
Uh-huh.
Lex Luger in '88.
Mm-hmm.
Sting in '89. Are any of them worse than the Butcher?
No.
1990 was the Black Scorpion, which is Ric Flair under a hood.
Mm.
93 was Vader. 96 was Roddy Piper. I'm sorry, 95 was Randy Savage.
Yeah.
98 was Goldberg and Nash.
Uh-huh.
99 was Bret Hart and Goldberg.
Okay.
2000 was Scott Steiner and Sid Vicious.
Huh. Well, okay. Sid wasn't that great.
Okay, so you think Sid was worse than the Butcher?
Sid looked better than the Butcher, but Sid wasn't the greatest worker in the world, right?
No.
Okay.
He was more box office than the Butcher.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Okay.
He main evented 2 WrestleManias.
Okay. You got to define what you mean by worse. Box office draw, personality, being able to work in the ring. There's so many variables,
Well, let me ask you, we're watching what a lot of people regard as being the worst Starrcade main event of all time. Starrcade 94, Hulk Hogan and the Butcher. But we had Starrcade 91 and Starrcade 92. Those were both the Battle Bowl years.
Uh-huh.
The main events in those, of course, were, Battle Bowl matches.
Uh-huh.
The first year, Sting won, last eliminating Lex Luger. That was in the Norfolk Scope. Battle Bowl in 92 was the Great Muta, last eliminating Barry Windham. So I guess you could argue that the Battle Bowls were maybe worse main events.
Yeah.
And I think the Butcher's probably the worst main eventer in Starrcade history.
How about this this guy in the hood? Is this not Arn Anderson or what?
I mean, it's so obvious, right?
I know. The way he throws these punches and everything.
The way he walks, every bit of it.
Yeah. This whole storyline was to expose Brutus the Barber Beefcake as
Two-Faced. Yes.
As Two-Faced. So in effect, now give me this, guys. In effect, this was not a bad storyline if you think about it, right?
Yes.
You say it was a bad storyline.
Well, I mean, I can't say it's a bad storyline. It's not a good storyline for Starrcade, I don't think.
Well, okay.
Like I know that we're not doing Flair on this show because
Right.
he's just lost a retirement match in October.
Right.
But why did Flair and Hogan never wrestle at a Starrcade? Isn't that crazy?
Why didn't Flair and Hogan wrestle each other immediately when Flair went to the WWF?
Well, they
The first
did
time.
on the house shows.
That's
And
right. It did on the house shows, but they didn't build it up for this big finally Hogan and Flair together. And I guess the answer to that is that Vince thought by doing that he was putting the other promotion over.
Well, Ric Flair would say, and if you go back and you look, he's correct. Flair was not over in some of the big markets. Like Flair was not over in LA. Like JCP was just not over in California the way the WWF was.
Right.
And those shows just didn't draw as well. And so them not drawing as well was the issue. But still, it was absolute box office when they did it here in 94 for Bash at the Beach. It broke every WCW record when they did it in July of this year. And they did a rematch at Halloween Havoc, this time for a retirement. And I guess Eric Bischoff has explained that in his mind, in his opinion, Halloween Havoc was like the WCW WrestleMania.
Right.
I, as a fan at home, kind of felt like Starrcade was supposed to be.
It was.
And I've always found it curious that, yes, we did get Hogan and Flair at Halloween Havoc and at Bash at the Beach, but never Starrcade.
Right.
Like Ric Flair wrestled Eric Bischoff at Starrcade, but not Hulk Hogan. What?
Yeah. Right. If you think about the history and you think about, yeah, it should have been Flair and Hogan at a Starrcade.